Oh, yeah. Five-star. LSU. I said, they ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU, huh? They ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU. We the best in the league if you looking for talent. LSU going hard, but we beat Alabama, then we going out to Florida. Drown the Gators, everybody getting bucked when we step in the stadium. This the LSU anthem, you know it's a hit. You don't know another rapper two-step like this. See me screaming out the window, yelling purple and gold. I'm an LSU fan, girl, you know how we roll now. Back and back it on up. Hey, 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 way down in the back.
TA, we are live back here in the Tigers Avenue. Got a big recap for you on the man. I don't even know what word to describe that game on Saturday. Stressful, chaotic, roller coasters of emotions type of game. LSU versus the South Carolina Gamecocks. Obviously, Zach and I will give you our recap, our thoughts on what transpired Saturday in Columbia, South Carolina. Obviously, LSU comes away with the victory, 36-33. Thin margin.
By the hair of your chinny chin chin.
By the hair of your chin. Missed field goal at the end that barely missed.
Twice. Missed field goal twice.
He did miss it twice. But regardless, he missed it. South Carolina lost. We'll talk about all the details of that game. And Zach, I'm going to give you my thoughts on the South Carolina fans and them blaming the referees. Zach, it is the epitome of what we have talked about here on so many occasions. It is the loser mentality. The loser is the only one who will complain about the officiating. The loser. And you have to recognize that as a fan. And I've caught myself, Zach. I've caught myself because we've regularly talked about that, having that loser mentality that after a game you critique every little thing and you find every little aspect to say, you know what, we should have won because of this. But guess what? You didn't. You didn't do what was necessary to win the game, and you lost. And that's why you're talking about officiating. If you would have won the game, you wouldn't be talking about it. And I'll give you my opinions on it because there was missed calls, blatant missed calls. Blatant.
On both sides.
And if it was on both sides, it wasn't the ones that y'all been talking about. That's for sure. The ones they've been complaining about were valid calls. Valid.
Yep.
Out of here in a minute. We'll give you that. We'll give you the second segment, kind of LSU, where they're struggling at. We'll kind of talk about how maybe they can address those things moving forward in other games. Zach, as we were talking about right here before the show, it's always better to learn from your mistakes after a win than a loss. It's always better to learn from your mistakes. And then, of course, we'll give you an around-the-horn look at the scope of college football and the way things have been going this past weekend. Because, Zach, there was a lot of interesting things that happened.
Yeah.
I mean, it was maybe a telling weekend of college football, you know, obviously with Georgia and that game going down to the wire with Kentucky. And we'll give you our thoughts on that too. Of course, people are trying to do the comparison, right? That South Carolina beat Kentucky like a drum, and then LSU, obviously they struggled with South Carolina, but they pulled it out and won. And then Georgia barely wins Kentucky. They're trying to do that whole thing where it's like, well, maybe LSU's blah, blah, blah. Maybe South Carolina's better than – and I will again continue to stand by each game is its own. I'm not like each game is its own. Each week is its own. Every opponent is different. Every week is different. You just can't do that. You just can't say this is this, so that is that, right?
Matchups are different.
It's totally different. You just can't do that. And so, is it an interesting topic? Sure. Like, I get it. You look at it and you're like, okay. But you just can't say because the way this game went and this game went, that means this, right? You just can't do that. Totally different game, totally different week. So it just we'll talk about that as well and give you an around the horn kind of scoop on college football and all things with that as well. So Zach, before we really dive into things, I got to give a bit of shout out to my guys at Itawamba. My boys balled out Friday night. 40 Zach to nothing. 40 to nothing.
Impressive.
Against Lafayette County in Oxford. In Oxford. We hung 40 on them and pitched a shutout. That's 2 weeks in a row that we've pitched a shutout. Got a big game. Yeah. Up to the guys. My dude. Specifically, and I'll name a few, I mean, kind of the stars of the game. J.A., our starting quarterback. I mean, there's no telling how many yards he threw for. 3 touchdowns, though. No interceptions. Had a heck of a game. Cooper Waddle continues to just be a freak athlete. I mean, probably about a 65-yard touchdown catch on the opening play of the game, which my boy Coach Eaton drew up in the office before we got on the bus, drew up the opening play and said, we're going to take a shot, took a shot, landed it, and we never looked back from there. But
Nice.
Cooper with 2 huge touchdown catches. And it wasn't a touchdown catch, but probably one of the craziest catches, Zach, I think I've ever seen. 2 defenders, PI like crazy. I mean, PI like crazy. Pulling him literally down from a shoulder pad from behind, falling backwards in the rain, snags it one hand and pulls it in at about the 3-yard line. Phenomenal catch. You can see the photo on Itawamba High School's page. It's there, the picture of that catch. Incredible catch. Shout out to my boy X, who got a lot of D1 offers, a lot of D1 scouts looking at him. Just a sophomore. Had 2 touchdowns on the game as well. On the defensive side, Ole Miss commit Bryson Walters had an incredible game, including a pick in coverage. And when you see Bryson, you don't look at him and say, that guy can go play coverage. He played coverage, got an interception, and I think Marion as well at the DB had a fantastic night. So shout out to my guys at Itawamba. I had to shout them out.
Had to take that moment right there.
Asking me, Zach, about my podcast, and they said they might listen. So if they listen, I wanted them to know. I'll give them their props because they played fantastic Friday night. Got a big one, homecoming this Friday against New Albany. Big game. Looking forward to watching them play well. All right. With that being said, let's talk about the game Saturday, LSU versus the Gamecocks. In what was one of the most
stressful,
bizarre,
exotic
games I think I've ever watched. It felt like every single play you were hanging on to your seat. It felt like every single play meant something to the game. It was up and down all around. And Zach, I literally was sitting there watching that game thinking, I'm ready for this to be over. Like, regardless of the result, I'm ready for this to be over. My mental health is not getting any better with this game. And thank goodness it ended with a missed field goal from South Carolina for LSU to come out.
Because if it had continued, then you'd just be like,
oh my goodness. I don't know if I could have handled it. But it was a relief to go. I'm really glad. I don't know if I've ever said this, but I was really glad when that game ended. And LSU was on top. I was glad for it to be over. And I needed a nap afterwards. Tigers win though, Zach. Tigers win. They
Even
pulled
that.
it out, Zach. They pulled it out, and that's really, I think, the way you can say it. They did what was necessary to win. That's kind of my quick synopsis of the game. I'll let you start getting into the details, but Zach, I think that is a good way to put this. That LSU pulled this out. I will say though, Zach, at the same time, this to me was a very important game. Number one, because it was your first SEC game. You needed to start off your conference, record in the right way, your conference play in the right way. It's really Garrett Nussmeier's first true road test in a hostile environment. And I think he handled himself very well. That was definitely a hostile environment. And I was pleased with the fact that we stayed poised, stayed in the game regardless of how it started, and came out with the victory. With that being said, Zach, kind of getting the details of this thing and your thoughts on what happened on Saturday.
Well, I think the first play kind of set the tone for LSU fans as far as how the game was going to go. Lenore Sellers, which obviously we've discussed and a lot of people discussed prior to the game, you weren't really scared of what their offense could do, but it's the issues with the LSU defense and the lack of execution with the LSU defense that was able to catapult South Carolina's offense, especially early, right? So first play of the game, Lenora Sellers does a dump off to the tight end behind the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
I mean, shows how much confidence they have in that. And Lenora Sellers to first play, let's go dump it off to the tight end behind the line of scrimmage. Like you would think they would go to a running back or, like a wide receiver screen. No, let's dump it to the tight end behind the line of scrimmage. I thought that was crazy, but dump it to the tight end behind the line of scrimmage. Harold Perkins comes in hot and is there to make the play and doesn't make the tackle. And the dude rumbles and tumbles for 17 yards.
Yep.
From that moment, I was like, all right, here we go.
There we go.
We're going to be in for a game.
And
I know we didn't get to give our preview, Reagan, but, going into this game, I kind of expected LSU to be close with South Carolina and then pull away there in the second half.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that's just not what happened.
It felt like it was going to be. But
you got down early in a big way. Yep. Their offense goes 75 yards with ease right down the field because your run fits were bad. I mentioned to you, and I mentioned this on Blake's show tonight. I just feel like there was a lot of moments in the game. Let me start by this before I make that statement. Another big thing that LSU fans have to realize, and that a lot of national college football fans, college football viewers, all that kind of stuff, aren't going to realize from this game is you had a lot of different guys playing the different positions. Sage Ryan moved back to safety. Harold Perkins moved to the star position. You had Deshaun Spears making his first start on the road in the SEC as a true freshman.
Yep.
You had Ahmad Bro take over for the injured Jacoby and Guillory. You had Caden Durham get a large bulk of carries on the road, first SEC game in a hostile environment. I mean, a lot of these players, especially on the defensive side of the ball, were playing in new roles on the road in a hostile environment in the SEC.
Yep.
And so already you had a learning curve to start the game, and we saw that. I mentioned, the thing I wanted to mention was I noticed a lot. If you go back and watch the highlights, I noticed there's a lot. I've watched the highlights from the game 3 to 4 times. Whit Weeks, who I think is a great player and is going to continue to be a phenomenal player for LSU, especially throughout the rest of the season and his junior season.
I agree.
A lot of times seemed like he was chomping at the bit a little too much and got sucked inside. And the running backs for South Carolina, Raheem Sanders, was able to bounce it outside. And we already know that LSU's DBs are playing back because they don't want to deal with coverage bust. So they're playing back a little bit. And so if you can't guard the perimeter, if you can't contain the outside run, you're going to get gashed. And that happened a lot in this game. Weiss got sucked inside, in the middle of the pack there at the offensive line, at the line of scrimmage, a lot of times trying to come in too hot, gets caught by offensive linemen, running back bounces outside, DBs are going with the receivers, they're getting they're covering, they're getting blocked, and that's why you had a lot of the plays that you had.
Right.
Also, just poor tackling on the defensive side.
There was.
So 75 yards, first drive. They get a field goal early on. LSU's offense struggled to get going. South Carolina's defensive line is legit. Very good defensive line. I would argue one of the best in the country.
Yeah.
And gave you fits. The offensive line fits. They haven't given up a sack all game until this past game against South Carolina. Gave up 2. And so, it was a struggle early on. The thing that made the game and put LSU where they were at was the blocked punt. And I know me and you are going to discuss that, and we can. But to have that happen in that moment is what puts you so far behind the 8 ball and made this game what it was and put LSU in a position where they had to scratch and claw to get back into this game. The fortunate news for LSU was that they did. They battled. They fought back. They got stops when they needed it. I mean, so many times there was, first quarter you're thinking, golly, we could get blown out. Like, we might get dusted. But LSU's able to put a drive together. They get on the board. I thought Garrett Nussmeier, while he obviously had the mistakes, that he made, and obviously the big mistake in the fourth quarter with the interception, throwing it into double coverage. Obviously that was a huge flaw from the game. But Garrett Nussmeier, I thought looked poised in his first road SEC game in a hostile environment. I thought he looked poised. I thought he had great decision making, and you saw guys emerge in this game. So while there was a lot, left to be desired, even defensively, think about how close of a game this was to being a blowout for LSU. If you don't have the block punt, which by the way should have been a flag. If you don't have the block punt, if you don't have 2 missed assignments and run fits where Lenora Sellers breaks off a 75-yarder and Raheem Sanders breaks off a 60-plus yarder, I know you can't take them away, but if you execute on those plays, you don't have the block punt, and then if you execute offensively in the red zone twice when they did it with the interception and the turnover on downs the first drive of the second half, you're looking at LSU blowing out South Carolina near, South Carolina, you take away those 3 touchdowns.
Yep.
Again, I know you can't take them away. I'm just trying to give the listeners and the viewers a picture of how close LSU is to being a really good team, right? They're a good team. LSU's a good team. They're not a great team.
Right.
But I feel like they're close. If they can get some of the things corrected execution-wise and figure out your personnel, because we kind of know defensively, we know what the personnel is. Like, you can't change that. It is what it is. But if you can figure out who is my best guys in these packages, in these schemes, in these situations, who's my best 11, and you can get more consistency at executing defensively, then you're looking at this ball game, potentially looking at LSU blowing out South Carolina, putting up 50 points on the board if they're able to execute offensively in the red zone, and if they're able to execute defensively with the rushing defense. You're talking about a game where LSU could have potentially beaten South Carolina and put up near 50 points and held South Carolina to under 20 points. I mean, that's what we're looking at right now.
Yeah.
You're talking about like a almost 50-point ball game for LSU's offense and holding South Carolina to what, 13 points, right?
Something like that.
13 points. So South Carolina was bad in the passing attack. I know there was moments like where, especially like near the end of the first half, where they had some chunk plays offensively. You got a lot of young guys out there. J.K. Johnson was out there on that play, trying defending the wide receiver there at the end of the first half when they got down the field. So it's just a lot of small stuff that compiles, right?
Yeah. Right.
A lack of execution in the rushing attack. A lot young guys. A lot of guys in different positions this game. A lack of execution in the short yardage offensively, and a lack of execution in the red zone offensively. Which, by the way, where has Tradez Green and Kamorian Pimpton been in the red zone?
Literally.
Like you put the guys out there.
You got to get
you had Tradez Green have a touchdown reception against Nichols.
Yep.
Like, we didn't see that at all this game.
No.
Right? I feel like Joe Sloan can also do a little bit better job play calling.
Absolutely.
Like, you already knew that you struggle with short yardage, right?
Yeah.
There was several moments where it was 3rd and 1. It happened at USC. It happened in the South Carolina game. So in the second half,
inexcusable.
In the second half, I think you could have done. I'm not saying just pass the ball all 3 times at the 2-yard line, but can you scheme a little bit better with your rushing attack?
Yep.
I believe so. So I think Joe Sloan's close. I mean, again, look at this game though. 36 points. 36 points.
Yep.
And you're this close to getting near 50. So it's very clear that this is offensively, it's an execution issue, and defensively, it's definitely a personnel and some execution issue. I don't think you have issues personnel-wise on offense at all.
I think offensively, especially in the red zone, the play calling has got to be better. Though.
The play calling has got to be better.
The play calling is an issue in the red zone, specifically with goal to go.
But I don't think it's a personnel. It's not a personnel issue.
No, it's not a personnel issue on offense.
So I get, and you made the point earlier, Reagan. Each game's different. You got to take each game for the context of what it is. And you were really close to this game potentially being a blowout for LSU, which is what people expected. You just had unfortunate circumstances happen in this game that led to what it was, right? So, again, I know I'm not trying to sound like a homer. Again, I mean, if you're just now listening for the first time, like me and Reagan picked LSU to lose to USC. Like we're not just sunshine pumpers and homers. And I know last time we came on here, we talked about, not overreacting to the Nichols game, and I wouldn't overreact here either. Now, if it begins to continually be a consistent problem, right? If we continue to have these problems against UCLA, even against South Alabama, then you're going into Ole Miss going, yeah, we're kind of screwed. We're going to get murdered, right? But
yeah,
you had an extremely hyped up 2 teams that I feel like are really, really close matchup wise in LSU and USC, and they played good. LSU played good in that game. You lost a close one. You can't judge this team and say, well, that's just how it's going to be. Like that's just how it's going to be the whole season. Guys, it's been 3 games. You've played 25% of the regular season. You've only played 25% of the regular season. Like, and has history not shown you the last 2 years that the team's going to get better? Like, they're going to get better. So again, I know, and listen, I was upset. I was upset, right? And there was times I was like, gosh, we suck. Like we suck right now.
Yeah.
Does that mean that you're going to suck the rest of the season and like you're going to continue to have these issues? We got to wait and see. We got to take it game by game, and obviously, I love to throw it out there because Reagan, I mean, me and you know, in talking about overreacting, right? We're overreacting to certain things, right? Me and you know, we know. So I love getting on Twitter a lot of times and throwing out overreacting tweets, even though like I know I know I'm personally not overreacting, but getting on Twitter and throwing out an overreacting tweet just to see, what the fans say and just to see their comments.
That's
Like,
the
yeah, like when we had the blocked punt, I can't. It was somewhere in the first quarter or something like that. I tweeted 6-6. I don't think this team's going 6-6. I genuinely don't. Right, but now if it if the issues continue, could you have a potential 6-6 season? I mean, maybe. I don't think the team's going 6-6.
No.
So, but as Brian Kelly said on Monday, these things are correctable. Like, these things are correctable. Sage Ryan not making the tackle on Lenore Sellers when he broke off the 75-yarder, that's correctable. And I mean, but also look at what Sage Ryan did defensively. I mean, he had a strip sack that produced a turnover. Ashton Stamps, you need to turn around when the ball's coming to you, right? And it's underthrown like that. You got to be able to turn around and play the ball. You could have had a pick, but he turned around and on a 3rd and goal situation had a huge pass breakup, which led to South Carolina having to kick a field goal.
Yeah, which was huge. Which was huge considering the block punt.
Exactly. So those things are correctable, right? Garrett Nussmeier, you had 2 throws, which thankfully they both got called back legitimately, right? Good calls by the refs. I know you'll talk about that,
Literally.
but Garrett Nussmeier's got to, I mean, should you throw those ball, like when you're getting horse collared, should you float a ball out there? No, because you don't know what the refs are going to do. The refs may say, oh, he grabbed the shoulder pad, like that's a legitimate tackle. I mean, you never know what's going to happen, right? They're humans. They're going to make mistakes. So should you have floated the ball out there when you get horse collared? No. Should you have thrown the double coverage when you're there in the red zone and it's that type of ball game? No. But look at what Nuss did. I mean, he led you to a game-winning drive at the end of the game, threw some dots to Kyron Lacey that got you down inside the 5 and produced what would be the go-ahead and winning touchdown drive. So, you got to take the good with the bad, right? You can't say, well, we need to bench Sage Ryan. He gave you a turnover that gave you the ball in plus territory. I mean, you can't say, oh, well, Whit Weeks. And I know I said it, like, yes, I felt like there was a lot of times that Whit Weeks was getting sucked up too much. But you got to take the good with the bad. Whit Weeks was your leading tackler, right? He had 11 tackles on the game. So, there's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad, but it's all correctable, as Brian Kelly had said. And Brian Kelly also, I mean, he made the point that I just made not long ago, like, they're close. They're close. And he feels like, with execution, better coaching, better scheming, right, that this team can be a good team, a really good team, and can compete, with the better teams in the SEC. So I feel like, yes, there was a lot of overreacting to the game, but I understand where you're frustrated, and those things have to get corrected, right? Those things have to get corrected. So whether or not they will, let's take a game by game and see.
Yeah. You played potentially, I mean, Zach, the worst half of football you could imagine on Saturday. I mean, it was horrendous. And you found a way, you had the resolve to get back in it and win that game. It showed great poise. You played horrible in the first half. Horrible. You've kind of broke down the game, I think, really well. It's like, here's what I want to do. I want to highlight a few players that really, I mean, this game is this game because of them. And you've mentioned a couple like Caden Durham already. He's obviously the big one of the day. But so I guess I'll start there. Caden Durham, number one. I mean, 97, 98 rushing yards on the day, 2 touchdowns.
For sure.
He's been able to do what what it seems like no other running back so far this season has been able to do, like break tackles, make guys miss. And
Yeah, he's slippery, bro. He's very slippery.
man, dude, I can't remember which run it was or what point of the game. He had about a 5-yard gain, and a South Carolina defender had him swallowed. And all of a sudden he came out of it, and I was like, what the heck? Like, I was
Yeah.
like, how did he get out of that? And he went for about 4 more yards, and it was about a 9-yard, 10-yard pickup. And I was like, holy cow. Like, I thought for sure, like, he was down.
I mean, his 9-yard touchdown run was like that. Got swallowed up.
That's exactly what I was about to say, Zach. That was how big of a moment was that? You were down 17-0, Zach, at that time. 17-0.
Well, the 9-yard touchdown run was later on. The 20
No. The 3rd and 9 was your first touchdown of the game.
Yes, but that was a 24-yarder. That was a 24-yarder. Like, he picked up the first down and got to the end zone.
But that was when it was 3rd and 9.
Yes. But I'm talking about the 9-yard touchdown run, not the 24-yard touchdown. I'm talking about the 9-yard touchdown run.
Oh, yes.
A defender had him dead to rights, broke the tackle, and then met 3 guys at the line and just plowed into the end zone.
Yes. I'm talking about when it was 3rd and 9, the 24-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
What a moment you're down 17-0, and you hand the ball off 3rd and 9 to a true freshman.
Yeah, that was huge.
Like, hindsight, now you look at that and go, okay, it was 3rd and 9, you're down 17-0. They're playing for 4th down. They're playing for him to pick up, hopefully,
5-6 yards.
Yeah, 5, 6, 7 yards, and making this a manageable 4th down. Instead, which I'm sure they thought of this as well. Nobody in the world's thinking we're about to hand it off 3rd and 9 to our freshman running
Yeah,
back.
they've been stuffing you all game up the middle, and you do a little halfback draw on 3rd and 9.
Certainly, there was an aspect of that there. Okay, he can pick up 5, 6, 7, make this a manageable 4th down, or nobody's expecting this, and maybe he can get the first down. And that's exactly what happened. But not only did he get the first down, he got to the freaking end zone. It was a 24-yard run and capped it off with an awesome stretch to get to the ball to break the pylon, just like
really
Lenore
impressive.
Sellers did on the opening drive. I mean, extended himself, got the ball over the goal line, a touchdown. Incredible play. So shout out to Caden Durham. I mean, look, Brian Kelly said, in his press conference, like, we're not going to say he's the guy, but I guarantee you, actions speak louder than words. I guarantee you, this Saturday against UCLA, he will have more snaps. He will have more snaps than what we've been used to him.
I think he'll have the most carries out of the 3 running backs
so far. Yeah, I don't think there's any question. You'll see that Sunday. You will see that Saturday. He was awesome, and I'm very happy for him. MVP of the game. But another guy, Aaron Anderson,
dude. Yeah,
had a fantastic day, and
he's really emerged.
Last year, just came in kind of like saying, okay, this guy's going to be the one to fix our return game, and he muffs the first punt that he gets and never gets back there again. And all of us were like, here we go again with the return issues. And they put, Gregory Clayton back there again to just say, catch the stinking ball. And of course, you have Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, and you have Kyron Lacey. Like, he just got lost in the mix. There was too much there for him to pop. Man, he seems to be emerging. He had a great game against USC, and in my opinion, he should have had 2 touchdowns in USC and should have won us the game. Garrett Nussmeier threw a bad throw to Aaron in the USC game, like hit him at the feet. But if he hits him out in the flats, the screen pass to Aaron Anderson in the USC game, there's a lot of stinking green in front of him, and we were at like the 10-ish yard line. I think Aaron Anderson would have scored, and we would have won the game if Garrett Nussmeier hits that pass. Obviously, he didn't, but that would have been a 2-touchdown game for Aaron Anderson. He turns around against South Carolina in South Carolina and puts up a 95-yard performance. And Zach, the pass that Garrett Nussmeier made to him on the 44-yarder,
where he
phenomenal.
got pass interference.
Yeah. Phenomenal pass, beautiful pass. Could not have been better.
Dropped it in a bucket.
PI because he had been beat. Right, the defender he got beat, so he commits the PI, and Aaron Anderson still makes the catch. Phenomenal pass, phenomenal catch. Tip of the cap to both the guys. There was another pass that people don't talk about.
3rd and 7 that Garrett Nussmeier threw on a rope and Aaron Anderson jumped up and got it.
Dude, that was tight. It was tight coverage, and he made the throw. Aaron Anderson made the catch. He had a great day, man. He just did, and I really hope that continues with Aaron. He seems to be popping, and I was really happy for him on Saturday. Great game, and he's one of the reasons we were in the game. He's one of the reasons we had a chance to win the game. So shout out to him, man. Shout out to Emory Jones. Look, Will Campbell probably had his worst day as an LSU Tiger on Saturday. Let's just say it like it is. Probably his worst day. Emory Jones didn't allow a pressure. Emory Jones didn't allow a pressure on the day. So shout out to Emory, man. He had a great game. Although the South Carolina defense impeded a few times early in the game, man, Emory Jones, you look at the PFF rating and whatnot, he had a fantastic game. So shout out to Emory Jones as well.
Mason Taylor had a really good game. 6 targets, over 50 yards. After over 50 yards, he had a touchdown.
It's got to happen.
Took the lead.
Yes, Mason Taylor's got to get in the mix more frequently. On the defensive side of the ball, man, Jordan Gilbert covered your butt a lot in this game. Yep. Covered your butt a lot in this game. It's going to go unnoticed. Go watch Jordan if you want to. Go rewatch the film, the highlights, whatever. Jordan cleans up a lot of mistakes that you made in this game, and had the highest PFF rating of any defender on LSU's defensive side of the ball, and he was fantastic. But holy cow, Zach! Shout out to the whole defensive line, because you thought that the defensive line on the defensive side of the ball, that the defensive line was going to be potentially your weakest side of the ball, namely the defensive tackle. Paris Shand had a fantastic game at tackle. Fantastic.
So did Braden Swinson.
Fantastic. Braden Swinson. Well, I'm talking about the tackle position. But on the edge, yes, Swinson balled out. 3 sacks. And he had – did he have a forced fumble too? Was he the one who forced the fumble?
Yes. The second fumble.
Robbie Ashford. Yes, a forced fumble, 3 sacks, was creating havoc. Zach, and that's what frustrates me is we had 3 turnovers. We had 5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. This game should not have been close. We made it closer than it should have been. Yeah. That's on LSU. We got to get better on a few things, because Zach, 3 turnovers for 3 points is inexcusable. It's inexcusable. That cannot happen. You've got to capitalize on turnovers. And 2 of them, Zach, you got in your own stinking red zone. And you came away with 3 points. 2 red zones and came away with 3 points. One of them was the pick, but you punted after the pick. Like, you've got to do better. Got to. It's inexcusable. 3 turnovers for 3 points. You've got to capitalize on your turnovers. If you capitalize on your turnovers in this game, it's not a close game. You've got to capitalize. But, yes, Braden Swinson, Paris Shand on the defensive line, man, and even Savion Jones, who didn't get a sack but was creating havoc as well.
Savion Jones did have a sack. He had 1 sack.
Oh, yeah, he sure did. I'm sorry. But they had a great game, Zach. The defensive line had a great game, so shout out to them as well. Some of the unsung heroes of this game, Paris Shand, Jordan Gilbert, Savion Jones, that, didn't have the eye-popping stuff, but were really good. And especially when you go back and watch the film and really analyze what happened, Jordan Gilbert did a lot for you in this game. Really need him to do that moving forward. Zach, we'll just. I mean, we probably need to combine everything with these first two segments. We've kind of addressed the first two segments in this whole thing. But here's what I got to stink and say, Zach. Here's what I got to say about the penalties. I'm ready for you to.
I'm ready for you to rant on this.
My stinking point. You are the loser if you're complaining about referees. It is a loser mentality. Losers will point to the referees when you don't make the plays necessary to win the game. So all these people that are backing South Carolina, you're soft. You're soft and you know better. And I'm shocked. I am shocked, Zach, that even Josh Pate, who has been very reputable, I would have never imagined that he would say something about the referees. And he did. That's soft. That is a loser's mentality to point the finger at the referees. I don't give a rip about the referees. If you have a 17-0 lead in your own packed, sold-out stadium and you blow it, it ain't on the refs.
Yeah, it's on you.
It's on you. It ain't on the refs. Like, that's inexcusable. So the narrative that people are spewing that the game was gifted to South Carolina is hogwash. It's garbage. It is a loser mentality. And I can't, Zach, here's the deal. Number one, blatant horse collar. Blatant horse collar. I don't know how you're arguing that. The fact that people are arguing about that, unbelievable. Blatant horse collar. The blindside block on Garrett Nussmeier, it's a blindside block. Kennard took it upon himself in a moment when Garrett threw an interception in a celebratory, shove-it-in-your-face moment. Kennard took it upon himself to take a shot at Garrett Nussmeier, and he knew he did it. He knew he did it. What was his reaction, Zach, as soon as he made the hit? What was his reaction? You're guilty. You are guilty if you lay a quarterback out blindside and then turn around and go. and Zach, you want to know how many stinking flags flew in? 1,500 flags flew in after he made the hit. It was a blindside block. Go watch the stinking replay. Garrett is looking at the DB who made the pick, or the safety, more actually, it was the safety. He's looking at him, going to try and make a play on the sideline to force him out of bounds, and Kennard comes back and hits him blindside. You can't tell me it's not a blindside block. You cannot tell me it's not a blindside block. But. And then you do this, bro. Like you're caught. You are caught. Here's the one I'll give South Carolina. Here's the one I'll give to South Carolina, which did not result in taking points off the board, by the way. They called offensive pass interference on LSU one time. I didn't see it. I mean, on South Carolina, not LSU. They called offensive pass interference on South Carolina. I didn't see it. I'll give you that one, but it wasn't a scoring play. It wasn't a scoring play. Here's the other thing. We've already talked about it. Everybody knows. Brian Kelly mentioned it. The block punt was illegal as it gets. It was as illegal as it gets. You cannot leap the shield. And buddy, I don't know what else you call that. Homie,
go through the shield, not go over the shield.
You can either go through the shield or around it. You cannot jump over it. Like, it's the same with field goals. It's the same with punts. You can't do that. You can't. You can jump up and try and make a play. You can go around. You can't leap the shield. What did they do, Zach? They leapt the stinking shield. The guy who leapt blocked the punt, and guess what they got off of it? A touchdown. So for all of you fans, South Carolina, who complain about it, if you make the right call on the block punt, you take that touchdown away. Let's say they give you the touchdown back on the pick six. Guess what? The score's the exact same. It's the exact same. Stop being a loser and blaming the refs. Look at your team and say, Shane Beamer, You had a 17-0 lead in a sold-out College Game Day stadium, and you blew it. You blew it.
And by the way, you were 4 of 6? You threw like what 4 or 6 passes in the second half.
You threw 4 passes in the second half.
You were 2 of 4. Yeah,
like, I don't want to.
That's how bad you were.
I don't want to hear it. You were outgained in the third quarter. You gained 1 yard in the third quarter. 1. I don't want to hear the referee garbage ever again. And if I'm doing it about LSU, call me on it because it's hogwash. You are able. You have 60 minutes in a game, and probably 150 some odd plays in a game to win a stinking game. 4 or 5, 3 or 2 calls from the official do not ultimately affect the outcome of the game. Regardless of how you feel about how the referees called the game, you had a chance to tie it.
Yeah.
And you missed the field goal twice.
Not on the refs.
It's not on the refs. It's not. It's hogwash. I cannot believe it is unbelievable to me the amount of people I have been seeing do that. Unbelievable. By the way, they called a blindside block on LSU on a punt. They called it both stinking ways.
Yep.
Like it is utter garbage. Garbage that it was on the officials. Utter garbage. There were a couple of reviews, Zach. There was a couple of reviews for Kyron Lacey. One went South Carolina's way, one went LSU's way. But it was 50.
And they both were the correct call.
And they both were the correct call. It's garbage. It is the ultimate loser mentality to blame the officials. It's the ultimate loser mentality. So I don't want to hear it anymore. That's hogwash. The calls were legitimate. Get out of your feelings. You blew the game when you had it. You had LSU in a chokehold. You had a game that you have not beat LSU since the 1990s. LSU has dominated South Carolina in that series. You had a chance with College Game Day there. You honored the South Carolina women's basketball national championship team. It's a sold-out crowd. It's a ranked LSU team. You had a chance with them in a chokehold to put that game away and change the narrative of your season, and you blew it. It ain't on the refs. It's on you. It's on you. Point made. My point is made. We're 50 minutes in. That's my thoughts on that.
You want to tell them, Reagan? You want to tell them?
Hot garbage. I don't want to hear that again. Zach, I really was. I was blown away at the amount of people that were saying it was on the refs. Like they gifted them the game. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Garrett Nussmeier threw that pick and upheld with 6 minutes left in the game. South Carolina could have gone and salted the game away. And guess what they didn't do? They didn't go score and salt the game away. We got the ball back with 4 minutes left. Garrett Nussmeier led a drive to go win the stinking game. We punched it in with 1:12 left. You should have won the stinking game, South Carolina. Quit blaming it on the officials. Gosh, that makes me so mad. That infuriates me. You had every opportunity to put LSU away, and you didn't. You didn't. And we took advantage of the opportunity at the end of the game to go punch it in, and you couldn't do it. And we even gifted you a blown coverage play and got you into field goal range, and you still missed the field goal.
We also threw an interception. We threw the interception after our turnover. We gave you a turnover in plus territory whenever our center snapped it when Garrett wasn't ready. You only came up with 3. So we turned the ball over. We turned the ball over twice. I mean, we gave you 2 massive runs. There's no
you
excuse.
had multiple chances to put LSU away, and you didn't. And so now you're coping by blaming the officials. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. It is what it is. Zach.
I'm with you, Greg. Well, we need to hit some comments.
Yeah, we need to hit some comments, and then we need to hit a break. We're 50 minutes in. We haven't hit a break. But anyways.
Mario said injury report for this week. Looks like I'm thinking Chris Hilton's going to play this Saturday. I think, as we mentioned, looks like Zai's okay. Which is huge for LSU. Outside of that, I don't really know a whole lot. I know Kyle Parker's still working his way back. You already know about that are out for the season, so we'll see. He also said, how is UCLA? We'll get into that into our preview, but I think this is a very favorable matchup for LSU on both sides of the ball. I really do. TT, what's up, man? Glad to see you in here.
Tyler.
Yeah, glad to see y'all in here, and glad to see all of you in here. If you want, go ahead, throw a comment in there. We are more than welcome to answer any questions you have. Pop up your comment if you want. So we'll take a quick break after this, and then when we get back, Reagan, we'll go around college football. We've discussed a lot about LSU and the game against South Carolina, but ultimately you get the dub, and that's what matters.
Yep.
So we'll be back right after this.
5-Star Hero, your intro and outro music for the Tigers Avenue show. They ain't ready for that LSU. Go check out all his other music on all the major platforms. Don't forget to follow him on Instagram at Saints Anthem and at Twitter at One Nation Doty. Don't forget to check out his Facebook page for all his Saints and LSU merchandise. Can't get any better than Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law. Her firm focuses on the needs of the elderly and maintaining their dignity throughout the process. Here for you, here for your family. Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law.
Right back at it here in the Tigers Avenue to kind of wrap things up. Last segment here around college football. Zach, I think obviously the story of the day outside of LSU's game was the Georgia-Kentucky game. Georgia goes to Kroger Field in Lexington and plays an absolute dogfight. I mean, they were tooth and nail.
I really don't think anybody saw that coming either. But something told me, because like I was at mom and dad's and I was like, Dad, put on the Kentucky Georgia game. He's like, I don't want to watch that. It's gonna be a blowout. I was like, put it on. Like, I want to see what happens. I want to watch this game. And I'm glad we did, because man, it was a dogfight. Kentucky was phenomenal on defense. I mean, just really impressive. The only issue, that kept them from winning this game is their offense just wasn't able to execute, once they got further down into enemy territory and Georgia's territory. So, obviously they made some mistakes. Brock Vandagriff had a big time fumble that led to, even though they held Georgia to 3, it still led to points for Georgia. That Kentucky, man, yeah, that was impressive, especially with what you saw from last week, with what South Carolina did to them, for them to be able to play Georgia as close. I don't know, man. I know Georgia beat the dog out of Clemson, and
Clemson's not that good.
I don't think Clemson's that good. And listen, Georgia's schedule is brutal. I really believe that Georgia's going to lose 1 or 2 games. I do. Now, they may prove me wrong. They may prove me wrong. They may prove me wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not as hype about Georgia as I have been the last 2 seasons. So we'll have to wait and see, kind of how that plays out the rest of the season, because their schedule is going to be absolutely brutal. But not much to talk about that game other than, really, really close dogfight, and both defenses looked phenomenal, and Georgia was able to beat
really good.
Georgia was able to pull it off. So, which I'm assuming, are they still ranked number 1? I really feel like
Texas jumped them.
Good. I didn't,
as they should have. As they should have.
Yeah, I really believe that was the correct move there by the polls there. So, that was an interesting game. We'll see how Georgia does the rest of the season.
Yeah, I honestly don't.
And a tough schedule.
Aside from ETN, Zach, their receivers are just not like they've kind of gotten some. I don't know what it is. They'll get a player from a lower level SEC team that plays well, and like a couple of examples: Dominic Lovett and Ra Thomas, and I'm trying to think of the other one, but there's another one. They would go and get these out of the portal, and
There's a guy out of Vanderbilt, Humphreys,
Humphreys. It just hasn't worked out for him, man. Like
London Humphreys.
the I will say Arius Smith maybe, but man, it just doesn't seem like you should be able to shred. I feel like Kentucky's secondary with good receivers. I just don't think they have them. I just really don't think they do. And ETN's been struggling with some injuries, and I don't know. Maybe they're not who we thought they were. Maybe they're not. Zach, some of the other things that maybe catch people's eyes around specifically maybe the SEC was certainly 2 games that were kind of shocking. UAB played Arkansas about as close as it gets. It was a 3-point game.
Yeah, that was close.
A couple minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. Thankfully, Arkansas got a stop in the fourth quarter, put the game away to make it a 10-point win, 37-27. But it was 30-27 late into that ball game.
I do, however, believe that Arkansas is beating Auburn this weekend.
I would agree. Is it in Fayetteville?
I have to go back and look. I want to say it's in Jordan-Hare.
I need to look at that. If it's in Fayetteville, I would agree. I would agree. I think they would beat them. Let's see, week 4 SEC. It's in Jordan-Hare. Yeah, that's gonna be a close one.
I think Arkansas wins. I'm just going out there on a limb. I think Arkansas wins.
Zach, another one. Holy cow! Like Mississippi State got routed. They didn't just lose to Toledo.
They got destroyed by Toledo. Yeah, Mississippi State.
That's shocking.
I don't know if I see very many wins. Like they're definitely not going to be bowl eligible. I don't think that.
Yeah, they got a brutal schedule too.
Yeah,
rough schedule.
At Texas, at Georgia. Oh God,
literally.
Yeah, they're going to get killed.
Another thing of note. Other things of note, Zach. Man, it feels like Billy Napier. It's like
he's hanging on by a thread.
If they go to Starkville this weekend and lose, he's done.
If they lose to Mississippi State, bro. If they lose to Mississippi State, bro, you better fire him walking out the stadium.
I think it's already done. I think it's already done.
Well, there's been reports out there. I know I've retweeted some stuff that, and there's been some people that have reported it that it's a done deal and it's just a matter of announcing. We haven't seen an official announcement, anything yet. I think it's a done deal, and we're just waiting an announcement. They might, hold on to him for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, like, get us through the rest of the season, and then you're done. Like, but
you almost have to do
really
that.
It really feels like his fate is at hand.
Yeah, you almost have to do that now because of the portal. If you hang the guy 4 weeks in the season, bro, that portal.
But honestly, Reagan,
portal is gonna be full of Florida players.
But honestly, Reagan, like, if you do it sooner rather than later, you're going to be able to get ahead on the coaching search. You're also going to be able to get ahead, because if you fire him later on, and if you want to preserve, I would think the opposite. If you fire him later on, then you're going to have a bunch of guys at the portal. If you fire him, if you fire him earlier,
you get a guy.
If you fire earlier, and then you can say, "Hey guys, look, we're bringing in this. This is who we're bringing in. This is who we're going after," right? Then you can potentially save some of those guys.
Maybe so.
Right?
Maybe so. That is a good way of looking at it.
That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion.
It's true. This is true. Other than that, Zach, I think the other thing of note, I think Texas is the best team in the country, Zach.
Yeah, I think they are.
And dadgummit, Arch Manning looked amazing.
Really good. Really good.
Amazing. In replacement of Quinn Ewers, they literally did not miss a beat. He looked fantastic. So
it might have been better.
Maybe so. I mean, maybe so. Texas is the best team in the country right now. To me, I think that's pretty obvious. I really don't think anybody from the Big Ten, maybe Ohio State, is a big threat to win it all. I really think Texas is the best team in the country. And I'm really glad we drew Oklahoma in Baton Rouge the first year. I'm really glad.
For real.
Really glad we drew Oklahoma.
We got the luck of the draw on that one, buddy.
We did. Because Oklahoma's been playing barely beat Houston. The score doesn't really tell it against Tulane. They played Tulane close.
Yeah, Tulane was close.
They played them very
Tulane,
close.
Oklahoma was close.
So I don't think Oklahoma's that great of a team. So and it's in Death Valley. We really did get the kind of the luck of the draw with that.
On a sad note, Vanderbilt lost.
Vandy did lose. They went back to being Vandy.
I was kind of rooting for him, man.
I was too. I always did.
When I saw the score, I was like, "Come on, Vandy, pull it out, baby! Come on,
come on, Vandy." Yeah, but anyway.
Oh no, we suck again.
That was pretty much it from Zach this last Saturday around college football. Zach, regardless of what happened and what transpired, and as crazy as it was, LSU got the victory, and that's really what matters. You won. On the road in the SEC is really stinking hard to do.
Look at Georgia. Yeah, look at
Georgia. It's hard to win on the road in the SEC. You got it done, man. It was the peak of peak. Williams-Brice Stadium, College game day, like all of it.
And the odds were definitely stacked against you, heavily stacked against you.
Yeah, you weathered the storm, regardless of your major mistakes. You got the game. You won the game. That's what matters. So learn from your mistakes, grow from your mistakes, become better, and go beat the snot out of UCLA this weekend. Let's see. I guess we can throw it what that guy's Jackson Dart and Ole Miss.
Oh, Kenny.
Cam Ward in Miami got the best offenses in the nation right now. Both are putting a video game number. I would actually, I think they're definitely up there with Tennessee and Texas. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Miami is really good.
I don't think Ole Miss hasn't played anybody worth a crap though.
Yeah, that is true. Ole Miss hasn't played anybody.
I do think they have an elite offense.
Yeah, they're elite. They're elite.
I want to see it against somebody worthy, a worthy opponent. By the way, Ole Miss goes to South Carolina the week before they come to Death Valley.
Yeah,
to South Carolina.
They also played Georgia this year.
They do in Oxford later.
Yeah.
Shout out to Kenny. Appreciate you being here, Kenny. All right, guys. That's about does it here in the Tigers Avenue. Appreciate all you commenting and interacting. As always, we love it. We appreciate y'all. We'll see you next time here in the Tigers Avenue to discuss the UCLA game. We'll see you next time. Foster here, take us out. Peace.
Who that